Welcome to the video companion for episode 66 of the Classic Horrors Club podcast. This video contains highlights, video clips, and bonus features from the full podcast, which you can find on SoundCloud at the link shown below. Now sit back, relax, and join us as we explore the cosmic mysteries of Professor Bernard Quatermass. And welcome to the Classic Horrors Club podcast companion. I am Jeff Owens from classichorrors.club, and I'm in the television studio today because we are covering cosmic events that are taking place in our universe. And as you can see, my recording partner is in the lab of Professor Bernard Quatermass. What is your name, sir?
I am Richard Chamberlain from kccinephile.com and monstermoviekid.wordpress.com.
Good to see you, my friend. Good to see everybody who is watching. Who's your friend over your left shoulder?
Well, yeah, he's seen better days. My little friend, he kind of looks a little better than what we kind of got in the final film, did he? In some of the scenes. He's my little friend. Staying safe and warm.
You're in Quatermass's lab. You got to be careful, because if that cranky old man comes in there, he is going to chew you out for being in there. But you know what? He is probably distracted by aliens and rocket ships carrying back bad things and conspiracies and giant Lovecraftian monsters.
Lovecraftian monsters. Yeah, I mean that's you don't want to mess with those. You don't want to mess with the elder gods. That's you're going down a dark path there. So
why all the theatrics? What are we doing in this month's episode?
Well, we are covering the films of Quatermass, the Quatermass trilogy, if you will, from Hammer Films. We've got the Quatermass Experiment from 1955, Quatermass 2 from 1957, and Quatermass in the Pit from 1967.
We remind you that you can listen to the full podcast wherever fine podcasts are found. This will be highlights and special things that you might not hear, and you'll get our lovely mugs as we talk about them. So, Richard, if you don't have anything else you want to say as an introduction, we can get right into the trailers and start talking about the movies.
You can't escape it.
Mackie, look!
Nothing can destroy it. It's coming for you from space to wipe all living things from the face of the earth. Beware of the creeping unknown. This woman is about to learn a terrible secret. She will never be the same again. Because this man knows that same secret, he will never speak again. To both of them has come terror in the form of the creeping unknown. Three men went into outer space. Only one of them came back. Came back a strange, distorted creature, haunted and possessed by something beyond human understanding. What was the terrible secret he could not tell them?
There's a whole new world out there, a wilderness, uncharted. And he's been there and come back. He's got the map. Unlock his mind for me, Briscoe, and find it. I know you can do it.
It isn't just a question
I know the
of...
strain and tension you've been under, but to stop now when we're so close...
Brian Donlevy. He dared an experiment that shocked a nation.
You've destroyed him like you've destroyed everything else you've touched, Kent.
There's no room for personal feelings in science, Judith.
An experiment that created the creeping unknown.
I want to cordon around the entire area, evacuate all public, get information to check up every movement that's likely to take place inside this radius tonight.
Yes, sir. Warn everyone not to touch anything unusual they may find in the streets.
The Quatermass experiment was released in London on August 26, 1955, and then in the United States as The Creeping Unknown on April 26, 1956. It was written by Richard Landau and Val Guest, based on the BBC television play by Nigel Neal, and the film was directed by Val Guest. How'd you like it, Richard?
This is the one that I've had the most exposure to, and I kind of came into this trilogy thinking this was going to be the movie that I was going to like the best out of the three. And spoiler alert, that's not the case. I really do enjoy it, though. It's a really good film. I think that in all three of these films, the character of Quatermass is I think he's just played very differently. And even though Brian Donlevy plays him in the first two films, I think there's enough of a difference in the way he plays the character in the second film that this one, when you compare it with the other two films, he's definitely much more abrupt, much more, he can be an asshole at times. I mean, he really can at times.
You can't expect such an experiment to be perfect.
Well, you must have had some idea.
I'm a scientist, not a fortune teller who predicts what will happen.
He's very impatient, he's cranky, he's unapologetic, he's so singularly focused.
There's no room for personal feelings in science, Judith. Some of us have a mission. You should be very proud to have a husband who's willing to risk his life for the betterment of the whole world.
The wife of this guy that's transforming, he calls her a stupid idiot.
Stupid idiot, trying to take the whole thing in her own hands.
Where did he go? What did she say? She didn't say anything.
You know, I wonder if it's like emotional intelligence, if he's lacking that, or just any concern. I mean, I suppose you could be considered some form of psychopath. Isn't that somebody that like has no concern for others? But that's, he makes it. I mean, that's that character, or else it would just be any other, professor. What's interesting is that we have no backstory on him in any of these movies. We only have his personality to, make the character and the movie, really. Yeah, and that's enough. A lot of times you complain there's no character development. You don't know their backstory. I never found myself in any of the three wondering. Now let's kind of talk about his opposite, because in two of the movies he's sort of paired with his kind of an opposite, Inspector Lomax. Yeah. Two different actors play him, and in the third there's not Lomax, but there's another character that kind of fills that role. So you kind of need, I don't know that you need it, but it's nice to have that balance. You've got someone to bounce off of him and to kind of be a positive influence, so that it's not all so dire. Well, let's talk about the look of the movie and the story. So it's beautifully shot, black and white, and it starts, each one of these movies, but this one in particular, just starts with such a strong, solid opening. I mean, here, this young couple literally taking a roll in the hay, out in the country, and they see something in the sky, and
Jet, doesn't it?
That's no jet. Maggie, look!
What is it?
Down! Get down! Down!
they run for protection.
Maggie! Maggie!
Get inside! Inside! Inside!
Sure enough, there's an explosion, and there's a rocket sticking out of the ground. I mean, right away. And such a great opening.
Oh, absolutely.
The ending is equally as strong and powerful. no spoilers, but Quatermass walking down the street, and it's a shot from above, and the lights. It's kind of film noirish a little bit, but it's
very,
beautiful,
very, yeah,
beautiful looking,
beautifully shot.
All three of these, I struggle a little bit with not really understanding what's happening as far as the science, and not that I think the science isn't real or anything, I wouldn't know, but just like really understanding, like, so this guy, Carew, is transforming and he touches things and he sort of absorbs the properties, like his hand takes the properties of the plant or the cactus that he touches. But then, you know, it's a leap that then how is he suddenly this Lovecraftian monster climbing up, you know, the side of Westminster Abbey? And it doesn't matter. I mean, the fact is it's happening and they've got to stop it. But I am not intelligent enough to grasp really what is happening.
There is a bit of a leap there. I've always thought that too.
We talked about the balance of Quatermass and Lomax, but then there's also, it's not so played up in, it's demonstrated in the movie, but not really talked about. But then again, at the end, there's this science versus faith like battle. And, you know, Lomax, this will be a spoiler, but Lomax tells Quatermass,
Well, this time you won. In my simple Bible way, I did a lot of praying. One world at a time is good enough for me.
that could have been really heavy-handed and like, okay, we get it. And it's so subtle. You know, I really like that.
It is a top-notch science fiction film. And
Listen. Sort of whistling. I was right. They're coming down by the hundreds. Get Hall.
Listen. Listen very carefully. If you ever hear a sound like this, run for your life. Run. Run before it is too late. For if you stay, you will lose your soul. Coming closer, closer, closer is an enemy from outer space. From out of this world it came, a horrifying terror that threatened mankind, haunting and possessing every human being within range, an indestructible danger beyond all earthly understanding.
Vincent Broadhead is dead. Dead? I watched him die a few hours ago in that plant. His whole body covered with some kind of corrosive poisoning, eaten away.
It poisoned everything it touched. The mind and the body of man was no longer in his control. They ran from this unknown menace, but there was no escape.
We're holding this block. We've got to, at least until the oxygen takes effect. What's in those domes, mister? Yes, where is it? Kill us. Inside those domes are creatures from outside this earth. Ah, you're mad. I've seen them. Thousands of tiny creatures that can join together and expand into things 100 feet high.
Was released in London on May 24th, 1957, and in the United States as Enemy from Space in September of 1957. I could not find a specific date. It was written by Nigel Neal and Val Guest and directed by Val Guest. It clocks in at a nice 85 minutes. We did not mention the running time of the first film. It was 82 minutes, so both of them under an hour and a half.
I really like this movie. I'm not sure that I can explain why necessarily, other than I think it was a combination of things. I don't think it was one thing about this movie that made it work a little better for me, because I think in some ways Quatermass Experiment's a better movie. It seemed a little more grander, if you will. But I like Brian Donlevy's performance in this one a little better. We see him in the first movie, and he's up on this pedestal. And at some point between the first and second movie, he's been kind of knocked down a little bit. He's not he had this vision for the moon base, and it's kind of getting stalled, and I kind of feel like he's still respected, but that maybe he's lost a few rounds here and there, that he's not necessarily undefeated, so to speak. He comes across a little more human in this one. He still is rough around the edges. He still has those moments where, he's lacking compassion. I don't think he's as arrogant in this film as he comes across in the first film. And that makes him a slightly more likable character.
You said you couldn't quite pinpoint. It was probably a combination of things. You're right. But for me, it's got that layer of conspiracy. And I'm not going to say government conspiracy because it's not exactly, but it's a conspiracy. And that makes it, to me, that always adds an interesting layer to it. And it is, I think, a wider scale. The stakes are higher. It's not just one monster creeping. It's, the implications are much larger. And a little bit of an Invasion of the Body Snatchers vibe to it.
A little bit.
So yeah, those are, I liked it a lot, equally as much as Quatermass Experience. I did it again, Experiment. So here's my theory. I don't know that this is a sequel. I think this could have happened first. You mentioned there's not really any reference to any of the previous movies. And so maybe instead of him being knocked down, maybe he's getting built up. Maybe he's really cranky in Quatermass Experiment because of what happened here. A lot of this doesn't take place in his lab, but when he goes back to his lab, there's a rocket sitting on the launching pad. At the end, in the climax, he launches it. There's no mention that, oh, he's done this before, he's launched. I mean, I guess you could say we're skipping a step because you don't go to a moon base until you've had a rocket, but maybe that's his goal. And when he sends the rocket up, it was to go to the moon. I don't know. I just really got a feeling that I'm not so sure this goes in order. Sure, it's Quatermass 2, but I don't know. I think it could make a case that this movie really happened first.
I'd be willing to buy that theory. Right off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that I could sit there and say, you're wrong, and this is why.
Another thing I liked about this was the setting of the moon base. It's like a plant, production plant of some kind. Very eerie. It seems like it's a huge place, and yet it's so sparsely populated a lot of the time on the outside. And when Quatermass is investigating, he's kind of walking through these big pipe things, and no one's around, and the black and white. It's very eerie.
I think any time that you're in a big building like that, or a big complex, and there's not very many people around, it can be creepy.
And then building on the eerie, it gets to outright horrific, and it's left for us to imagine. I can't remember what they're trying to flow chemicals or something into these big tanks where these monsters are, and it gets plugged. And Quatermass leads to the conclusion that
pipe has been blocked with human pulp.
No. And it kind of gruesome for 1957 too. I mean, thankfully we didn't see that.
They discover on the dark side of the moon this, I'm assuming the source of these monsters. Maybe it's a space, I'm not sure what. So he's going to remotely fire his rocket to go up. So the rocket shoots.
Somebody's shooting off flares.
Flares?
Right across the sky. Way up.
Where?
Well, it's gone now. No, there it is. Is it a flare?
No, it's not a flare.
What is it?
It's the one thing that may save us and humanity.
Does it hit that thing, or does it just explode in the sky? How exactly, what happened that saved the day?
I thought that it hit it, but
you see it explode, like it's not even in space. I mean, that could have been the chain reaction or something. I wasn't real clear what happened, and not that it matters. I just wondered if you knew what happened.
Quatermass 2, aka Enemy from Space. I enjoyed it. My favorite of the three films.
We recommend it.
Yeah, again.
Get back!
Who are they running from? What have they seen? Whom do they fear? There are 5 million answers to these questions, and every one of them is a shocker.
I saw it. Horrible.
Terror, 5 million years old, spills into our time to make two worlds collide. What is happening here and now can affect the next 5 million years.
It was what I was afraid of. The thing got a huge intake of energy. The very substance of it seemed to be coming alive. And then you can't see this world any longer.
They feel it. They see it. The archaeologist who digs back into the past to unearth more horror than the human mind can bear. Quatermass, the scientist, who comes face to face with 5 million years of terror.
Ronnie, it's Barbara. She's the one. Get down here, quick.
She can see into the pit and knows the terrifying truth. He can see into the pit, but he will not believe what he sees.
They were coming. Who? What were? Them. Them.
You saw the creatures.
They were alive. Alive?
You descend into the pit of hell as you share their horror.
Listen, I'm advising you all to leave. There may be great danger. I tell you, this could be dangerous. Get back! Get back! Wait! Don't panic! Wait! Hold yourselves together!
It was released in London on September 29th, 1967, and was released in the United States on February 7th, 1968, as 5 Million Years to Earth. And that is when Jeff's trouble began. 20 million miles to Earth, 5 million years to Earth. What's what? I can't keep these movies straight. Written solely by Nigel Neal this time, directed by Roy Ward Baker. This is a long one, Richard. It clocks in at 97 minutes. So it just exceeds an hour and a half by just a few minutes.
So I don't dislike the movie. I don't. I know this is a much beloved film amongst Hammer fans and amongst Quatermass fans. It is my least favorite of the three. And it's Andrew Keir's performance as Quatermass. I don't know. There are times that I'm okay with it because, again, I'm visualizing this as a trilogy. It's been, 10 years since the last movie. He's not as abrasive or as arrogant as he's been. He's played very differently in this film. He doesn't come across as dynamic.
We don't see Quatermass for a good, maybe a quarter of the film. In fact, he's not even top billed. James Donald is Dr. Roney. He's billed highest. And, Quatermass really stumbles upon this. It really has nothing to do with him. And he is only involved, tangentially.
Yeah.
But then, of course, becomes, sucked into it. So it's different. And then the Martians you mentioned. So oddly, I didn't have trouble with the scenes of the masses of them marching. But the paper mache one alien, I kind of had trouble with. I try not to let aliens bother me. Like, I love the giant claw and I will defend its goofy look, to the end of the earth. And then everything but the kitchen sink, I really admire what they were trying to do, and maybe they succeeded. You know, it starts off and, oh, it's aliens, and then it's like, oh, well, they've seen aliens in the past, and those look like gargoyles and demons that we've all been afraid of. So they're bringing those two worlds kind of together, and then it turns out, well, maybe they weren't just visiting, maybe they've been manipulating humankind all along. So that's kind of interesting. Then it turns out maybe we came from them, and we share this collective unconscious with all of humanity, and it's a lot.
It's a
And
lot.
I mean, I admire like wrapping every little thing of the occult into like one thing. You know, it all comes from this, but it blows the mind. I mean, that's a lot to think about and process.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot in this.
And I'm not sure about the ending. I don't understand how sticking metal in the ground would stop everything, but it's exciting as heck, him climbing that crane and then it falling, and it's a great ending. But like all three of them, I'll buy it, but I don't understand it.
Sometimes you just got to go with the flow a little bit. It's a fun movie. I mean, I enjoyed all three films. This the least of the three.
I really can't rank them. I like these three equally.
Okay.
I tried there, there's things I like about each. Not really anything I dislike. Like I said, I think they each have a spot where they drag. I really tried to think, okay, which is my favorite? I can't do it as of this moment. I like them all three equally. I think they're all three really good. Another song by the group Quatermass. This one is called One Blind Mice, and that throws my English writer mind off that we've got the plural and the singular mixed together. But from their 1970 album, Quatermass, available on Apple Music. Thank you all for listening.
Take care, everyone. Stay safe.